Okay, we know your name and your district, so we'll get
Okay.
right after it. Let's start just your impressions on tonight's event.
You know what? The outpouring of kids and parents was a spectacular sight. It shows that this is an issue that is on the forefront of kids and parents, and it's a real concern. One, I think because of the lack of understanding. It involves technology, involves a sense of the uncertainty, and there is such a gap between what the kids are learning right now versus what the parents are trying to understand. I think it's creating an opportunity for a lot of people to want to learn more about it.
You mentioned technology. This is something that it's evolving every day and exploding. Facebook, Twitter, stuff like that. How can, as a politician, how can the state and national, how can we stay one step ahead?
Well, I think it's being educated. And education is not simply reading, but interacting, being involved in your children's lives, constantly communicating. And I think one of the points the presenter said, you have a right to engage and be involved in your children's life. If they are opening up a Facebook account, you have a right to say, I need to be on it, and to be able to participate and learn from this whole process. But I think one of the things I want to turn away from when you talk about the explosion in technology, one of the things that we want to be very sensitive to is this outpouring and participation today is not just about technology. It really is about what cyberbullying and what technology and the impact of how bullying is being transmitted so quickly. But the real aspect of it is something that I think we need to talk more about. It is the pure human nature emotions. Because what you have are children who feel a sense of isolation, a sense of not belonging. And it creates an environment where children at that age, you know, during the teenage years, go through such a role of emotion. To compound that with that feeling of insecurity, the feeling of not fitting in, you have a real concern of depression. You have a real concern of these children not only hurting themselves, but hurting other people. So I think when you talk about technology, and I think it's important as we see the banks of computers here, but I think we need to take a step back and realize that all of this, and why it really resonates with people, is the fact that this touches people. It has a human element, and it's deeply penetrating in how it impacts people.
There was great dialogue tonight between the students and the panelists. Talk about why it's important to talk about this issue.
Well, what you saw was how tremendous these young people are. These young people have a sense about what concerns them. They have a real sense about what they're going through. And it's an emotional roller coaster that a lot of parents don't always connect with. What you saw in them in asking the question is, this really concerns them. And they need answers. And they need answers from the people that they trust. And that is through connection with parents, through talking with their friends. I think one of the advice the counselors gave was, go to people that you trust. And when all else fails, go to your peer network. You need to share that emotion. You need to realize that you are not in isolation. And I think that's a very powerful reminder to all these kids who go through that emotional roller coaster.
A lot of people may say, oh, it's just boys being boys, and everyone gets bullied. Tell me why that impression is wrong.
Well, you know, it's very interesting you talk about bullying. Bullying is not only things that happen to teenagers. Adults bully. And one of the things that I've tried very hard as an adult in the political process is to be very sensitive and to be considerate of the political dialogue and process. You know, negative campaigning that has become sort of de rigueur in our political setting, I find it a symbol of being acceptable to be mean to people. And I think as young people see and they form impressions, those are things that we need to recognize, not only from children, but all the way up through the spectrum of how we conduct ourselves, how we treat people. And I think a simple statement made by one of the speakers is simply this: the golden rule. Treat others as you would want them to treat you. And if you think a little bit before you do anything to people and behave in that manner, I think we would all be in a better and if not a safer world.
Do you think websites like Facebook and Twitter are doing enough to curb cyberbullying?
Well, you know, it's very interesting you say that. I mean, it is an amazing, you know, phenomenon where people across the world are engaged in getting information. You know, one big example right now is the tragedy of what's happening in Japan. And my heart goes out to the people and the most sincere prayers to them. But this is reality. This is a technology world we live in. We are capturing photos and visuals that are real time. This is what technology has afforded us. But it also afforded us a double-edged sword of saying, you know, if you spread a lie about somebody and you say gossip in a negative way, bottom line, there's no way to control it. It's such a fast evolving transmission of data. But as you say all that, the bottom line comes to, you know, the control that an individual has. You know, the computer is not making you post photos of yourself. The computer is not making you write mean things about people. At the end of the day, it is a recognition that as much technology as we have in this world, at the end of the day, we still have the human element. And that human element is something that we need to grab onto, to educate and to make aware that what we say and what we do has impact on people's feelings.
One of the things that made an impression on me was one of the panelists said when she was a youngster, one of her teachers had a couple of students step on a tube of toothpaste, and once it's out, can't get it back. Talk about that relationship with posting.
You know what, I was standing next to a couple of parents, and it was an analogy that made a lot of sense. It made a mess as well too, right? But I think the analogy fit because once things are out, you cannot control it. As I've shared with my children who are 16 and 12, I say to them, anything you write in email, anything you write in Facebook, you can expect that to appear on the front page of a newspaper. And so you need to be very conscious of what you write. We live in a day and age where once technology goes out, it's like the genie in a bottle. Once it goes out, it's going to be very hard to pull it back in. But again, it's that education, it's that awareness in anything we do. You know, we try to teach our kids, and through the program that you have right now, which is fantastic, to outreach to kids, to let them know that the decisions they make have significant impact. And that's why, for me, as an aside, I think the Boys and Girls Clubs throughout this entire state do such a fantastic job, not only to bring awareness to children, to be aware of their bodies, but to also be cognizant of their self-esteem, and to be very conscious that, you know, what you do have consequences. And it's important to be aware of a well-roundedness and to do good and give back.
And finally, what do you think, what message is going out as these students go home tonight and, you know, maybe they'll be in class tomorrow and say, hey, I went to this nice forum last night. What kind of message do you think it sent to the audience?
Well, I think what you also saw, not only were there young people, but there were parents. And it was an opportunity for parents to connect with their children. You know, it wasn't a situation where it was at purely school. It just shows that you know, these are kind of programs, these are kind of outreaches that remind people that, you know, it's important to have that human element again. And I know I've gone back to a number of times. We were talking about technology driving our lives. But you know what? I believe more and more that as we become more high tech, we really have to be sensitive to be much more high touch. And it's wonderful to see the parents out there. And with this program, with this opportunity that you have to outreach, it's another component of extending the awareness.
I think we'll end on that note. Nice
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.